So, Greg, how have you been? Good. Came to join us. um, Now, I want to start off by saying, okay, some big things last week. So, Jed Fish, congratulations to football. I mean, that UCLA win was amazing. It was really late, but it was amazing. Some of us were falling asleep, but we had to watch it when the Wildcats were kicking butt. So that was a huge win, great for the program. I've been saying all along that Jed was going to do amazing things, not only with recruiting, but just how he's changed the whole perception of football here and how he's engaged out in the community. And I said it from the get-go when I knew he was special and different. I mean, how many football coaches around the country come follow a women's basketball team in the Final Four? So all those things, I'm just proud of what he's done and what he continues to do. So I think there's a bright future for football. And Dave Rubio, my former school, Washington, who's always been a powerhouse in volleyball, for Dave to get that big win, I think that was huge. So really good for Dave's program. And then Rebecca Moros, Coach Moros in soccer, her second year, changing it, her first time in college athletics. And we talk a lot about the transition from pros to college. Is so different. We're always like, the first few years you shake your head a lot because you're like, this is so different. But I think she's done a fabulous job, and being picked last and then finishing fifth, sixth, or tied for fifth, I think it's great with the program. So just proud of all of the stuff Arizona Athletics is doing, and a lot of bright things in the future for us. So I didn't want to forget that. And then me, something big before we start, I just came from Nike yesterday, and I'm ready to change the world. I was so inspired. I'm a part of this group called the Think Tank. And it's I fangirl because the group is Serena Williams, it's Michelle Wie, Chloe Kim, Anna Fraser, all these amazing women. And it's this group, and we get to create ideas and give input on, what we needed as an athlete, or what, we're all at kind of different stages in our lives. I'm not the athlete anymore, and I'm around all these athletes, but just talking about the stages we went through, what we needed, what would have made it easier. So I talked a lot about being a mom and the bra that would have made a difference, or working out, the shoes, because you can't tie when you're pregnant, guys don't know, but you can't tie your shoes. You can't bend over or you're holding a baby. So all of these things that are so impactful, Nike is behind and doing some amazing things. So I left there just really just inspired to make change and more change. And I'm going to back a couple things that I'm really passionate about that you'll see coming up soon that's going to be really big. And I'm just excited. So I had an amazing time. I got back at 12:30 last night, but I got back just glowing because it was so powerful. So I'll tell you guys more about that later, but yeah. It was at Beaverton. So it was at the Nike headquarters. We had a couple days of meetings and just different workshops, and just with some phenomenal speakers, and just basically finding out what our purpose is, and because to me I feel as a coach I'm never going to win enough games. Hopefully I'll win as many championships as Gino, hopefully. Yeah, I'm here to win for sure. I want to win. I want to win a championship. That's why I coach. But I feel I want to do more than basketball. I feel I'm here for a purpose, and I feel I can impact in so many other ways. So I want to leave an imprint, when I leave this game, and how I impacted young women and did more things that are bigger than basketball. And I think I really had a lot of visions of that and helped to get some direction on that from Nike in my past few days.
How did you get involved in that?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember being asked, there's something I want you to be involved with. I think that'd be really good. And I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what Think Tank was. It was just new that we're in the second cohort. So I didn't know what it was about. And so I had a meeting at the Final Four last year with our representative Liz, who's amazing, works at the WNBA, college basketball. And then she introduced me to Tanya, who is running everything at Nike. And I was hearing about it, and I was that's amazing. And last year it was Serena, it was Sabrina, all these amazing women. I was yeah, I'd want to be a part of that. And I was thinking okay, yeah, of course I would. But I didn't really know what it was. Went to a meeting in Chicago during the WNBA All-Star Weekend, and met these phenomenal women, and got to talk about things, and talk about the future of just product that's being made, and what their vision is and how they impact, and their Nike's. It's not about product. It's about purpose and just all the stuff that they, like that they were doing around the world. So I was inspired, and I was like, this is amazing. So I had these couple days. I knew that we played Sunday, and I didn't know if it was going to work in a schedule. There's a couple meetings per year, and then this could work. So I missed practice yesterday. We don't play till Friday, so I was able to go over there and come back. And I missed some of the stuff, but I was able to attend most of it. And so I left there like that was just one of the most amazing few days. Like I was around just such amazing women, like Michelle Wee, like Anna Pray, just all these women that are so powerful, and got to like hear about like the areas that they are vulnerable with or like insecure about, like we all are. And you're like, I'm thinking like, she's so powerful, like I don't know, like just inspiring women and like what their passions are. And it was just so cool. And like just like with the Paralympics, Tatiana's like gold medalist and couldn't play sports in high school, like stuff that's not in your world, you don't know. So I think we all left there. You're watching people talk, and you're just inspired. And I'm just ready to do so many things. I am. I left there. I was writing notes, and I was like, you kind of soak it all in. And we shared stories with each other. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, honestly. Well, there's going to be like a lot of stuff coming out. I think we did a photo shoot, so that's not released yet. I think there's going to be commercials and different things. I think probably in the next couple months. I haven't looked that far ahead, Greg. We're in season, so I'm assuming probably in the spring. But I will not miss it if I can go. So it was cool. I'll show you guys some stuff from it later.
This is something that's so different, right? That you're taking part in and you're going to be a part of going forward. Now that you come back to these young women, how do you wish to impart things that you've learned to them?
Talk to them about their purpose, like why they play. Just continue to encourage them to be involved in like stuff that's bigger than basketball. Like the ball will stop bouncing one day. Like, so what are your plans? What are you going to do? Like, how do you want to be remembered? All those things I didn't think about when I was their age. I thought about it in the pros. And just get them involved. I want them to see what I'm doing, see what I'm doing with Nike and some organizations here that are going to be really big, and get them involved in those things. And then I think they're going to love it. And I think that it'll inspire them to do more and to talk about more and to use their platform for something really important that's bigger than basketball. So I think that I really think that they're going to be inspired. And we do a lot of it now. I think that we can do more. Like talking to Kaylin about what her passion is, like what does she really want? Yeah, we want to go play pro, but like how do you want to be remembered? Like what do you really want to do? Like I was the first WNBA player with a nonprofit. So like, I mean, how do I impact like I was doing in the WNBA? And it was really rewarding. I think that like you're not going to win enough games. You'll probably, as a coach, you'll probably be fired one day. Hopefully I'm not. But like that's just the nature of the business. Like as an athlete, you're going to be cut one day. Probably, unless you're a superstar, but I've been cut like 7 times. The first time it stung, the second time it was easier. After that, it's a business. So as a coach, that's your world. But like there's people you can impact and change lives, and like that's a lifetime. I think that's bigger than winning. I mean, and honestly, like, and how I relate to that is when we lost the championship, I was devastated. I was like devastated for months. I obviously didn't share that. But I honestly was more sad that I let so many groups down. I was sad because I felt like I was wearing this hat of like a mom. Like no moms do it. Like I'm doing this stuff like with a baby, like it's not done. And then like as a black female, Dawn and I were the first ones ever there together. Like, it's rare. So like, how am I going to use that platform to help other women? And then the next thing was a former WNBA player. We don't get there to win. So I felt like I let all these groups down. I felt more bad about that than actually losing. I was like, I couldn't do it. Like I felt like I don't know why I felt the pressure of that. And I didn't even know a lot of that till I was in the Final Four. And I was like, geez, pressure. But I felt more bad about not fulfilling that for all these people. And so I think it's just bigger than basketball. It's like we win, we lose. Like it is what it is. Yeah, you want to win, but I think when you impact people, or like, someone calls me in 10 years and says, you really helped change my life. Like I think that's more important. That's why we coach. Like we don't coach like just for winning and losing or for the money. It's like it's never enough. It's always someone's always better. Someone always makes more. Someone always does this, that. That shouldn't be your happiness. But I think when you can impact, if I can like build schools, like inspire women, create opportunities for people that didn't have it. I think that's way bigger than basketball. I mean, don't you guys think? Like than the game, like so. I think how you like I don't know how you affect people. Like I love when I see LeBron, and LeBron builds schools. Like that is amazing. I think more people should do that. Like you don't have to do that, but I think if I if I can do stuff even on a smaller scale than that, but and impact this community, how can I make it better? Like we have a Girl Power Day. It's like the only thing for girls. So how can I make that bigger? Now with Nike and other things, it's a bigger platform. It'll reach more people. So what can I do that can leave an impact here in Tucson and say, wow, she really helped change, give young women opportunities, or helped, moms have access to things. Like I think there's other things that are bigger. That's my inspiration. I left there like, you want to like yell on top of the building. I'm telling you, it was so powerful. I left there like, wow. Like I have their books. Like I wasn't ever into ballet. Now I'm going to go to the Boston Ballet sometime soon. Like it was amazing with these women and hear the things they're doing. It was just powerful. So, yeah. You're like,
Serena
"No."
Williams there?
She was on Zoom because I think she had a big art show. Something was like, it was just a big art thing. So she was on Zoom and gave us a message from Zoom. I was fangirling there too. They were just amazing. Michelle, we just like listened to her and her story. Like we shared stories about like things and, Olympians like, and like they're still running right now. Like just like I couldn't imagine like after a kid going back and winning a gold medal at the World Championship. So it's just these women are like at the top of the top. Tunde from Peloton, she was there. She was awesome. Yeah, she just now I'm gonna be following her on Peloton more. But they just inspire you to be better, and just all the work they do off of the field or off of the court was huge. So, yeah, and Asia Wilson was in our group. So Asia Wilson is just, I mean, she has her own foundation. She does a lot in the community. She had just came from South Carolina doing some stuff for the community. She always talks about being the voice for the voiceless and listen to her story and what she went through. And she was told she wasn't going to be a good pro. She was told she wasn't going to be this and that. And like, look at her stats now and look at what she's doing now. So it was cool to hear the things that these elite Olympians go through. Like Chloe Kim and just like being an Asian snowboarder, like no one looked like her, and the expectations of being a doctor or a lawyer, and then she's a snowboarder. It was just really, really amazing. So now to the game. We have two big games this week. I think good test. We're going to face a little bit more pressure, which is good because we kind of do it every day with playing against each other. But I think these are good tests for us because they're different than the teams we've faced. So I'm excited to play on Friday, Sunday because that's more like a Pac-12 weekend. So I'm going to see how we respond with that. So I'm excited about that.
How are you developing as far as your starting lineup? You made a few changes the second game, like Polina starting in the. So what are you thinking of around that?
I just think that I think so many people put so much weight in the starting. I don't think it's that important. I think we should be able to change without it devastating someone. I think that there's sometimes we'll play four guards, sometimes we'll play a really big team. I think we have to be able to adapt because the main thing should be winning. So I think Lauren was great. She didn't mind. We were trying different things. I think Helena was great. Helena's great either starting or coming off the bench. I think she just got in foul trouble, so it was hard. But I think that just figuring out what's going to make us like be our best. And I don't know yet because it's looking different. So I'm hoping in the next 3-4 weeks or 2 weeks probably that we can kind of figure out what that's going to look like for us. And there's a lot of work to do. I think sometimes I can be really critical and say, oh gosh, we have a lot of work. We're not where we need to be. But then today I was meeting with the staff and I was talking about like in November, when we went to the championship, we were awful in November. I looked at some film from SC. We were atrocious. We played SC, couldn't have rotation. So that made me feel a little bit better because we're way further along now than we were back then when we went to the Final Four. So we're better defensively. We're better with our rotations. We're better with some things than we were then, and we were great at the end of the year. So with that, I felt a lot better. I'm actually going to show that to the players. I was like, I need to show this so they can see us in November, see us in April, and it was like night and day. So I think it made me more optimistic now that I think we can do it. And the thing is, I can teach defense, we can teach rotation. We're going to get better at that. But like, you can't teach scoring, and that's hard. Like, you can't make someone that can't score be able to score. You can't make someone shoot if someone's playing off of them. So I think that we're way ahead there. We can score the ball a lot better. We can sharpen up our zone offense for sure against a 2-3 or 3-2, but we can score. So scoring's not our thing. So we're going to get better, and I think we have a chance to be really good. You know, if we can just click right and I can figure out a way to keep us healthy. You know, we've had more injuries. It's funny, when you have 15, you don't ever have injuries. And when you have 12, you have injuries every week. So it's like, I think the magic number for me in the future is going to be like 13. But not 15. 15's hard. But, you know, 12 or 11 is tough because you can't practice half the time. Like, then Lauren's out. Like, Lauren's a player that we're going to really miss this year. Just her communication, her post defense, like, she's a big loss for us this year. So filling that void, figuring that out. You know, Maya's a freshman, and then as Mary's new in our system, so all that stuff takes time. Jade's new in our system. Kaylin, there's 4 freshmen. So I think it's just going to take us probably a month longer, which is fine.
I was looking at some of the numbers from, you know, back before the pandemic, and even back when you guys weren't a big offensive team, you were assisting more than you are right now. So what do you have to do to kind of get back there?
Yeah, and we're emphasizing that a lot. That's an area that I think just not trying to do it on our own, just understanding that we can get higher percentage shots later in the shot clock. So you may have an okay shot, one pass with 25 seconds, but you can get that same shot putting pressure on the defense with 8 seconds left. So I think understanding that, and, you know, like, the freshmen have never played like that because it's high school. And then different teams, like we're talking about, Jade came from a different program, as Mary, Lauren, it's different. I think we pride ourselves in sharing the basketball. Like, there is a power to everybody touching the ball. I've been a player that has not been a scorer on teams. I was a role player. I was not a good player. And I've been on WNBA teams where I was a role player. But it's different when you touch the ball, even to pass it, or you're involved in a reversal. You are much more confident, and that's just the way basketball is. If you are standing in the corner and you're not touching the ball, you aren't as involved, so you aren't going to play as hard. It's just kind of the way it is. You may play hard, but you're going to play hard if you're involved, you're screening, you're filling a part of it. And I think getting our players to understand that. So ball reversals are important, inside out. We are very good off a penetration or pass. The ball goes in the paint, comes out. We continue to shoot a very high percentage. Again, 8 for 11, again from last game. But it's way low. It's a way lower percentage when we don't touch the paint. So that means if it's like a 1 pass or 2 passes shot, we are not as good. We are not as efficient. So getting the players to understand that, and I think sometimes as a player you don't understand that. So it's my job to get them to understand it and to, you know, you can't shoot till this time in the shot clock, which is very annoying. As a player, I hated that too, but it is for a reason. So sharing the ball, much better. It should be higher assists to field goals. I know that shouldn't be like half, because that means you're going one-on-one. So just like forcing that, and then it'll come later because of the repetition. And we're going to play like that. I showed them last week. I showed them the San Antonio Spurs film. I showed them the emphasized touches, like when you touch and you communicate non-verbally and verbally, it's powerful. And I showed how wonderful the San Antonio Spurs shared the ball. And the Golden State Warriors the same. You share the ball, you play team basketball, you win. So just getting people to understand that and what that looks like.
Did you ever think, you know, your focus is defense, you're a defense. When we think of Arizona, it's defense, right? Did you ever think before that you were going to be scoring this much, and 2 games in, you're averaging 100 points? I know it's going to change, right, as the season goes on, but still, did you ever think, like, you would have this much offensive firepower?
I did, because I think you can teach defense. I think that just our personnel, who we have who we had, it's like we were a defensive team. I think that we're always going to be good defense because you can defense is effort, mentality. It's not. It doesn't. It does take athleticism we play, but if you're not as great of an athlete, you can learn angles. You can take a step back. You can still play our defense. Defense is like here, and it's what you want to do. I think. But when you have the offense, also you're a stronger team. So if you think of like the top teams like the UConns, Texas, some of those great programs, you can do both. And I think playing solid defense will help us win a lot. And then the offense is adding that because you don't want to be dependent on 2 players. But if you have 5 players that can score and play good defense, I mean, that's a championship team. So being able to do that and being able to hit shots so people can't play off on you, being able for Shane or Kaylin to penetrate because the guards have to not help off the wings, it's easier to score that way. So I did think we would get better players and improve and be able to do both. But right now, just our scoring ability is above, like ahead of our defense, but it's always usually like that at this time of year. And that's what you tend to forget when you're a coach because you're like, oh, I got so much work. But when I look back, at like the history in the film, like we were bad in November at this time. So I don't think we're awful now. We're just not good yet. But we're not good on either ends yet. We're going to get better.
I started looking at some of the other teams, and there's a lot of freshmen around the conference having big impacts. I mean, what do you think that says about the league that they've got all these?
Yeah, so we had really good freshmen come to our league. I think that also early you have opportunities to play a lot of people and give opportunities, which is really good for down the line. And I think we all are doing that. So you know that getting them experience now can help you in March, April. So utilizing that and there's some good freshmen. Stanford has good freshmen. I mean, UCLA has, one of the best in the country. Washington State, everybody has good freshmen. Everybody got better. So I think that's good for our conference for the future. Because ideally, you want to keep people on the West Coast. You want to keep people in the Pac-12. And, that's what you want. So I think there's a lot of stars. And I think future stars and impact players. And that's what we want in the Pac-12. We don't want them to leave. Now it's going to be every school keeping those players because of the transfer portal. And because any good player that comes in that doesn't play, especially early, is not going to stay at any team. So I think as a coach, that's a balance because you're trying to win games. You're trying to give players experience, and you're trying to do it all, and it's not easy. And you have to recruit your team, and you have to recruit the next classes. It's a lot. And so I'm curious to see, will players move to teams? Like, is there going to be recruiting, from other teams? That the whole transfer portal is going to be interesting. So.
If you notice, you probably haven't had time, there are no Pac-12 women's games on the Pac-12 network. But almost every men's game is on Pac-12 network. Think that'll change at some time?
I mean, it needs to change. I don't think that that's the way it's supposed to be. I actually didn't know that. I'm hoping that stuff changes in the next few months when we sign another television agreement and there will be more equality. But those are some of the things that we talk about as women's sports. It's like there needs to be a lot more. There needs to be equality, and it's nowhere close to being equal in any way. So I think there's a lot of change for sure that has to be made. And I think years ago people didn't want to watch. I think now you can't make that argument. You look at women's soccer. Look at we played in front of 5.7 million people in the Final Four. People care about women's sports now and do want to watch. I think it's time for companies to put equal marketing dollars. It's time to do different revenue sharing. The whole system has to change.
Do you think there's an advantage to be on TV rather than the free streaming that is offered by the conference?
Absolutely.
What are those advantages?
Well, I think that some people don't have access. I think that everybody now has phones and stuff, but I think being on TV is huge. But I think being on both, because now with the younger generation, they're all cell phone, iPads. They're not watching TV a lot. Most people don't have cable anymore. I think being on both. But I think families, when you're sitting there watching, you're at home, I think you're more likely to get on TV. So I think we need to have television exposure, and I think our next agreement will have a ton more exposure. I mean, we shouldn't be playing at 9 o'clock at night on the West Coast. That's midnight on the East Coast, or 11 o'clock on the East Coast now. So all that stuff has to change. We need more exposure, and that's if you want our conference to grow. And women's basketball, I think people need to see us. I don't think I don't think it's fair when you have like, a small school. You have a small school on TV, and then you don't have like UCLA and some other good team. I think that has to change. I think people would rather watch the UCLA, a top 10 matchup with women than like an unranked men's opponent. I think. So I think there has to be money poured into those things because it's absolutely not fair at all.
Yeah, the other night, I think maybe last night, it was Prairie View A&M against Washington State.
Yeah. But maybe there was another good women's game out. I don't know, but yeah, I think that. Like I would think a more wise investment would be than finding a top 10 matchup. I think, UConn and Texas were on TV, but I would think pouring more money into that versus like, a top 100 men's team, I think would be more valuable. But I think there's just so much that has to change, like the revenue sharing with women, not packaging us all. I think letting people pour money into women's basketball. I mean, there's no way that we should come from the Final Four and not bring any money back to our school. That whole system is flawed. I mean, if you're a 300 ranked men's team and you go to the tournament, you bring back more money than like Tara and myself being in the championship game. I think that's insane, and I think that's not right. So I think that whole and the funny thing is you don't even know that stuff when you're a coach. I didn't even know that till it was put out. I didn't even think that was possible. So I think there's just the whole thing need to change. I think you're going to see a lot of change because you have like NBA players now talking about stuff. You have Nike really being a big game changer with women in sports across the world, around the world. You see equality with soccer, equal pay with soccer. I think, it's coming. It's just, I feel like if it's not talked about now, it's just going to get forgotten. And I think there's momentum to talk about it. And there's just a lot of changes that need to be made. Like nothing is really equitable. And we can all say it is, but it's not even close. So it's the year of the woman. No, I feel like there's momentum, though. I think there's people want to watch. I think it's changing. I think more men are supporting women. They have daughters, so they want to support women's sports. I think it's changing. It wasn't like this 15 years ago. Again, and I think that women are no longer like accepting scraps. I think before it was just like be grateful for what you have, and like we'll take that because we didn't have anything before. I think it's now like okay, like we deserve this, and like we're not just gonna take this because it's leftover. We deserve our seat at the table. Like we don't have to sit on that side table. So, but I'm glad it's a conversation. Yeah, thanks.